Morning, Thursday, September 4th, 2025. I'm Larissa. This is my video diary. My fat bitch video diary. The time has come. Once again. Should drink from Skulls. So yesterday, oh my god. Well, first of all, tomorrow is the day. Ooh, look at that. It's like a hair fountain. What is this? Yeah, so tomorrow's the day. Tomorrow is the grand reopening of One of Gallery Studio. Public is welcome to come be nosy and see the artwork between noon and 9 p.m. at 2959 Park Avenue, Unit D. Yeah. And there is a bus stop, so you can take public transportation directly to the parking lot. Yeah, it's right there. Yep. Anyway. I don't know, we'll see if anyone shows up. We'll see. So, yesterday, second day of my cycle, and it was just, I was a mess. There was like a whole bunch of stuff I wanted to do yesterday that I didn't do because, like, I was a mess. Like, literally a mess. So, I just stayed home. But, I started a new novel. Oh, thank you. You ready to go?
Yeah.
Brody, what were you all excited about?
Package delivery.
Oh. Brought a little ding dong. It's been a while, buddy, since you had to get up in the middle of the night, go pee pee.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's true.
He did, middle of the night. He had to get up. He wanted to go pee pee and get a drink of water. Anyway, so I started a new novel. I started writing a new novel yesterday, and it's different than any of the other ones I have written, and they're all very different. But you know, we will see. We will see. It has some interesting characters. This is one of the ways that this novel is already different than my other novels, is that all of the main characters are female so far. Yeah. And that's very, very different. A number of my novels, the main characters are male or are, split between, male and female or otherwise, right? So it wasn't intentional. It's just the way that the story started to develop. So now I guess this is going to be a women's story. We'll see. We'll see. Like I said, So there's a whole bunch of people that I am getting to know, so to speak, through this process. So that's how I approach my writing mentally when I'm writing fiction. It's like, oh, here's some people I'm going to get to know. Right? Through the developing story. So I guess it's going to be an adventure. Yeah. It usually takes me a couple weeks to write a novel. So we'll see. Novel number 9. Number nine. Looking at some news stories that have been popping up in my feed. What the Google's been feeding me, my Google news feed. One thing that I find very interesting and hopeful. Gel nail polish is being banned in Europe, and it's not the nail polish itself; it's one of the ingredients in the nail polish um, that makes it harden under light, right? Under the UV light. That is what's being banned. It's in some other products too, but it's what makes gel polish, right? And I've been saying, like I have a horrible reaction to gel polish as well as other acrylic products. Yeah. And EU is banning it. So like hopefully it's going to come along here in the US here soon too. I'll stop pushing that shit. It's like right now my hands are a mess. A mess, right? And my feet have been a mess. Every time I get gel polish on my feet are a mess. So anyway, anyway, yeah. I read this article this morning. I just read this article this morning, and people are upset about this person who was writing the article was upset about language being used by the government in talking about long-term chronic illness and shifting blame from shifting blame onto people in particular with autism for their needs. And I read the article and I read what they quoted, and I didn't I didn't read I didn't read it that way. Um, I read it as a critique of parenting, and perhaps that's what the author was really upset about, but unable to vocalize, like unable to accept upon themselves, was any kind of responsibility as a parent for harming their child or causing the problem, right? Or making the problem worse, right? And that's not uncommon, right? You know, there were drugs that were forced on me as a child that I had no choice in taking. That later in life, I was informed by medical professionals that these medications had been inappropriate to give me because the diagnosis I was given was inaccurate, right? And these drugs did damage to my body, right? Long-term damage, things that can't be fixed or changed, kind of thing. And, my parents, they are incapable, unwilling and incapable of accepting any responsibility for harming me, right? Nothing, they accept zero responsibility, right? It's my fault. It's my fault. If you had just done as you were told, as we told you to do, if you had just been good, we wouldn't have had to drug you. Mm. Yeah, that's the attitude. And that was kind of the attitude that I felt from the author of this article. I didn't read, I didn't stop to see, I didn't notice if it was a mother or a father. It sounded feminine, but it doesn't mean that it was. Um, there was something about it that had a quality of like, oh, I'm reading something a woman's written. Um, but I can't put my finger on exactly what that is or isn't, right? Might be just my own biases of like, oh, a mother would write this, right? Like, oh, I don't know. I didn't stop to read the little bio or anything on the author. But they were talking about environmental factors and food choices and other things, dietary things, and it's just like, okay, when you have a child, the child doesn't make those decisions about their environment. The parent does. So to say that this language is blaming the person with the symptomology when the person is a child is ridiculous, right? You can't blame the child for their situation. Like, that's what it means to be a child, right? That's what it means to be a child. That adults have responsibility for your well-being and choices, right? To an extent, it's like a child cannot issue consent, right? Like there's no such thing. That's why there is a thing called the age of consent, right? And it's different in different places, but generally, it's like 16 in a lot of places. 16 to 18 is what the age of consent is for sex, right? So they're talking about, like in the Epstein case, like 14-year-olds, they cannot consent to sex. Yeah, when I was 14 and I was raped, I wasn't a slut. I couldn't consent. Legally, I could not consent, right? And then you have to get to, what were the other extenuating circumstances and, you know, what were there other options even available? And so when you're talking about, a youth under 18 and under who are supported by their family, supposed to be, right? Like who you're dependent on what the adults in the house purchase for your food choices and things, for the most part, your diet. You might get lunch monies or whatever, and you get to have to make some choices for yourself about, oh, what am I going to have? Pizza, hamburger, kind of thing. But even there, like if you're in a school situation, what do you have to choose from, right? With your lunch money. Those are all decisions made by adults. You don't have control over your environment. So when I read that article, I'm like, no, it doesn't sound like they're criticizing the child with autism. It sounds like they're criticizing the parent of the child with autism. And people don't like that. They don't like to have to consider that they have done something wrong or harmful to children. Right? Yeah. Or that the cause might be something even within them. Um, I when we moved out here, they've been talking about autism for quite some time. And so 25 years ago, when Omar and I moved out here, I used to listen to nothing but public radio, right? NPR, 24/7, Um, and there was on the NPR station, what was it? What's the one down there? Or what's the one in Silicon Valley? Is that KQED? I think it is. It's KQED. I think it's KQED. Um, mm, there was a program one morning when I was driving on my way to work um, about a study that was being done on the high rate of autism in Silicon Valley among youth. And they were making correlation between engineers procreating together and the elevated rate of autism, and they were attributing it to two things, to both nurture and nature. um, that on one hand there was some evidence that it had to do with environmental exposure to materials that are inherent in engineering professions, and then heavy metals. And then on the other hand, they were also looking at traits that are personality and personality traits that are considered desirable in engineering fields, and that are people who are engineers tend to have high rate of, and to what extent are these traits um, genetic, right? Predisposition kind of thing. Um, a proclivity towards uh, mathematics over creative things or whatever. To some extent, that is a nurtured thing, but there's also genetics that are involved in what you're good at, right? Um, just like with athletics, right? Like to some extent, athleticism is genetic predisposition because of your physiology, right? And to some extent your physiology can be nurtured, and that you can improve what you have been given, but not everybody's given the exact same thing when they're born, right? It's the same thing with mental with personality and mental abilities. So it was just interesting, and part of what they were saying that they were saying and that they were seeing in the study is that if you have engineers that are not mating with people who have other qualities other than engineering qualities, that they have a higher rate of autism. It was interesting. So people don't want to hear about that, right? They don't want to hear about that. They don't want to hear, in particular, the science engineering crowd, the tech crowd doesn't want to hear that there is real value in the creative crowd, right? And no, not everybody, right? Not everybody, but oh, it exists. The bias exists. Yeah. The idea of, art school is not being real school, right? Yeah, that's a manifestation. That's a manifestation of a bigotry. Yeah. But then you see these health problems arise. You don't want to have to admit that, oh my goodness, I must need some of that over there, right? So, there's like an internal shame and an external shame, right? Oh, I didn't make the best choices for my child, right? Oh, I bought them lots of processed foods and that wasn't good for them. Oh, they react to dyes and preservatives. Like, growing up, my family, we ate a lot of ground meat. And it's not like we didn't eat tons of junk food and stuff, but there was lots of cereal in the morning, and there were snacks and things, that processed things. Um, and I wouldn't say it was like more so than what other people have. There were definitely went to there were definitely things that my mother did not buy that friends' houses had, that they're like, oh no, that's not good for you, kind of thing. But there's no acceptance of, oh, well, some of the stuff that's in that isn't good for everyone, right? Like I I can't handle food dyes and a lot of different preservatives that, like I have reaction to MSG and other kinds of preservatives, right? MSG is a food enhancer, but it also has preservation kind of qualities as well, because it's a salt kind of thing. Um, and there's my mother would never ever, like, she still, when I talk, if I were to talk about, I don't talk to her, we don't talk to each other, but this is part of the schism. When I became vegetarian and became much more picky about what I ate, you know it was always, well, if you had a real allergy or a real health reason, right? When my reasons were health based, right? Is she could not accept that um, anything that she had provided me as a mother may have contributed to things that she felt were problematic, right? No, no, no. It was my fault. There was something wrong with me, not with what she was giving me as a child. So, you know, it was interesting reading that article. I was like, oh, this is just another parent that can't accept that they've done something that wasn't in their child's best interest. And, the healthy thing would be able to be able to look at that and be like, oh, well, now I know better and I can do differently. But the common response is, no, there's nothing I did wrong. All those windows. Thank you for closing them because I can't, it's very hard for me to reach them. I have to put on high heels. Have a good day.
See you, Brody. Good.
Yeah. So anyway. Senor, what's going on with you? Senor, how are you? Brody, little ding dong. Brodalicious. Anyway. Yeah. Yeah, so this new novel, I don't know. It's kind of heavy. Yeah. Usually, it takes me a couple, 2, 3 chapters to like really reveal as much as what's been revealed in this very first chapter that I wrote yesterday. And I don't know if it's just a matter of having writing more and more and more that I'm becoming more concise in my writing or what. I don't know, but it's going to be interesting to see where this story goes. Yeah, I guess that's going to be my personal entertainment for a little while. I also have these short stories that I wrote a couple years ago that I need to transcribe into. I need to type because I wrote them out long. Sometimes I write longhand. I almost always write poetry longhand. Almost always, my poetry is originally done in longhand, but sometimes I also write my fiction longhand first. Yeah, it's kind of old-fashioned, huh? Yeah, not all the time, but whatever. I don't know. Difference between I find that when I write things out longhand first, that the scenery is a little it's more painterly. My writing's more painterly when I write longhand first. Yeah. It seems a little more intimate. It's a little more intimate and a little more I don't know. I think that comes from because I write letters and I write them longhand. And I think it comes from that. It comes from that. I don't know, we'll see. We will see. We'll see how this one goes. I got shit I gotta do today. And I'm just really, really glad that I am not like squirting blood like I was yesterday. I was, oh my God. I didn't want to leave the house. I was like, no, because I do not want to make a mess somewhere in public, even if it's at the gallery. So things I was going to do yesterday didn't happen. Such is life. Such is life.